Hey guys, hi, this is me, Abhidhi, and good afternoon. And how are you all doing? It is a long time I have not been making any videos, and because due to I was on a break from YouTube, and so tell me how are you all guys? I'm so very excited to prepare this video and again post it on my YouTube channel, and well. So now, as you might have seen the recent video on my channel, Science with Abhidhi is in a new mood and in a new look. That means your Abhidhi is now having a new and a different kind of a mood and a different kind of a look as well. So do like, share and subscribe. Don't forget that, huh? Now, you all know me, but still a small brief introduction. I'm Abhidhi, your 10th year friend who helps out with your amazing and tricky science problems. And so, if you have any query in your mind, then don't let it be there. Just put it in the comment section because your friend will definitely solve it out. But you all will be asking me again that long time no see Abhidhi. Where were you, Abhidhi? What were you doing? And why were you not coming on YouTube? So, well, I was on a break for 1.5 months, as I mentioned here, as I was having my board examinations. It was a grade 10 term 1 board examinations. But yeah, the break was a lengthy, but yeah, again back, right? And with a new mood and a new look, Abhidhi is in a new and perfectly high mood. So, what we are going to do today is one of the most interesting things because I want to be a cardiac surgeon and I got this idea that if I want to become a cardiac surgeon, why don't let you know about your heart only. So today we are going to do the anatomy of heart. So this topic is very important because it is like included in the syllabuses of your studies and as well as it is one of the most important parts of your day-to-day life because everyone says that because of your heart only you are alive. So why are you alive? Because of the heart. What is this heart only? You need to know, right? So this is why I'm preparing this video because if you know the anatomy of heart, it becomes pretty simple and your friend will make it much more simpler if with some tricks and tips to ensure that you know your heart much better. So before we start with the heart, let's just go a little bit to have a knowledge about heart. Now as you might be knowing that our heart is between the lungs, but there is an exception. It is not exactly between the lungs, it is slightly towards the left side, that is as I have shown here. This is your sternum bone, which is in the front part of your rib cage, and it is slightly towards the left. And sternum is also known as your breastbone. And after heart is very delicate organ, so to protect it, a pericardium layer is surrounded and prepares like a slack. So now the outer layer of pericardium surrounds the roots of the major blood vessels. So the major blood vessels, if I'm going to tell you right now, are vena cava, pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein, and aorta. So these are also attached to the ligaments to your spinal columns and diaphragm and other parts of the body. So your the pericardium is also there present with the major blood vessels, spinal columns, diaphragm and other parts as well. So now a bit more. So your heart weighs between 200 to 425 grams and it is a bit larger than your fist. So normally there is an assumption that your heart is a bit larger than your it's the size of your fist. But remember, it is roughly the size of your fist. It's not exactly the size. It is a bit larger of the size of your fist, because the atrium and the ventricle, if the four chambers are combined, it will form the size of your fist. But there are other muscles as well, like pericardium and all. So if these all are included, then it is a bit larger than the normal size of your fist. Now, by the end of a long life, a person's heart may beat more than 3.5 billion times. Now, this is a huge number, and each day it beats around 100,000 times only. And it pumps nearly 7,571 liters of blood. The inner layer of pericardium is attached to the heart muscle, and a coating of fluid separates the two layers of membrane, letting the heart move as it beats. So between the heart muscle and the pericardium fluid is present, which acts like a oil or a lubricating agent between both of them. So your heart has four chambers. The upper chambers are called left and right atria. So in singular, if we will go, then each one is called the atrium, and in plural it is called atria. But if you want, you can also call it as auricles. Auricles is the another word for atrium. And the lower chambers are called left and right ventricles. So these both chambers are ventricles, and the upper two chambers are atrium. And this, the middle wall, as you can see between the right ventricle and the left ventricle, is called the septum, and it separates the left ventricle and the right ventricle. And also it prevents the mixing of deoxygenated and oxygenated blood, so that we mammals can take in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide very easily, and there is an efficient supply of blood. The left ventricle is the largest and strongest chamber in your heart. So your left ventricle is the largest and strongest chamber because it deals with your oxygenated blood. And the left ventricle walls are only about half-inch thick. So why they are half-inch thick? Because they deal with oxygenated blood, and they need to push the oxygenated blood into the aorta so that it gets into all the parts of the body, which I'm going to discuss a little after this. So there are four valves present. Now, what are the valves and what is the work of your valves? So it is basically that your valves prevent the backflow of the blood. So if the blood is traveling, suppose if the blood is traveling from left ventricle to aorta, so there are chances that the blood can move backwards towards the left ventricle again. So a valve ensures and prevents that particular backflow during the flow of the blood from any chamber to another blood vessel. So basically there are four of valves in the heart. One is present between the right atrium and the right ventricle, that is your tricuspid valve. And then from the right ventricle to the pulmonary artery, a valve is present that we call as pulmonary semilunar valve. And normally it is called pulmonary semilunar valve because of the reason that the valve is in the shape of half moon. So you can ignore that semilunar word, and we can definitely call it in simple terms pulmonary valve only. So then there is another two are here. When it is between the left atrium, the blood comes into the left atrium and it goes into the left ventricle. So there is a valve present between them. It is your mitral valve. And in the mitral valve, we can also term it as the bicuspid valve. So now you will ask me, what is this bicuspid and tricuspid? So tricuspid means there are three cups, and in bicuspid there are two cups. So, and from the left ventricle, when the blood travels to aorta, so then there is also another valve that is called aortic semilunar valve, or you can also term it as aortic valve. You can definitely ignore that semilunar term. So I've almost discussed everything. Let's just again go through this slide. The tricuspid valve regulates blood flow between the right atrium and the right ventricle. So it is present in between the right atrium and the right ventricle, and the pulmonary valve controls the blood flowing from the right ventricle to the pulmonary arteries. So remember that the pulmonary artery is coming from taking out the deoxygenated blood, but actually arteries do take the oxygenated blood. So it is an exception of the arteries and the veins that all arteries carry your oxygenated blood except the pulmonary artery, which comes out of the right atrium and carries the deoxygenated blood. And in case of veins, all veins carry deoxygenated blood except pulmonary vein, which carries your oxygenated blood. The mitral valve lets oxygen rich blood from your lungs pass from the left atrium into the left ventricle. As I have already discussed it, that mitral valve is present between the left atrium and the left ventricle, and the aortic valve opens the way for oxygen rich blood to pass from the left ventricle to the aorta. So now where will the blood go from aorta? So from the aorta the blood will go to all the body parts, and the body parts will use the blood, use the oxygen inside the blood, and they will give out the carbon dioxide to the blood, and the blood will convert there into the deoxygenated blood. Now this deoxygenated blood will be traveling through the vena cava and again reaching into the right atrium, then passing through the tricuspid valve and getting into the right ventricle, then passing through the pulmonary semilunar valve, or you can also say the pulmonary valve, and going into the pulmonary artery. And in the lungs it gets oxygenated again, it gets oxygen rich, and again the same cycle gets repeated. So the conduction system. Electrical impulses from your heart muscles cause your heart to contract. So when your like right atrium just relaxes, and the right ventricle contracts, then the blood comes in into the right atrium. And when the right ventricle relaxes and the right atrium contracts, then blood comes into the right ventricle. So this is a relationship that how the blood comes into this, and the contraction and the relaxation is what you call the pulse or the heartbeats, and this is what we call the diastolic pressure and systolic pressure as you're in a blood pressure, the pressure exerted by your blood on the arteries and veins. Now this electrical signal begins in sinoatrial node located at the top of the right atrium, and the SA node is sometimes also called the natural pacemaker. So an electrical impulse from this natural pacemaker or the SA node travels through the muscle fibers of the artery and the ventricle. So if you are asking me about muscle fibers, so your heart is made up of cardiac muscles. So your muscle fiber, the cardiac muscles have some fibers. So all muscles have fibers. So in cardiac muscles, there specifically some kind of fibers are present, and the electrical impulses pass through those travel through those fibers of the cardiac muscles, causing them to contract. Although the SA nodes send electrical impulses at a certain rate, your heart rate may still change depending on physical demands, stress, or hormonal factors. If there are certain cases that uh, in certain kind of a rate your electrical impulses are passed from the SA node, but while you are having any physical exercise, or you are in stress or anxiety or depression, or you are having any hormonal disease, so then your electrical impulse rate may vary, because you are doing something heavy work, you are having some issues. So at that time your number of electrical impulses or your rate of electrical impulses may vary. Now the circulatory system. The heart and circulatory system make up your cardiovascular system. Your heart works as a pump that pushes blood to the organs, tissues, and the cells of your body. Now, there is one question that what will happen if there is no heart or no circulatory system? So, your blood can't flow, first thing, and there won't be any transportation of objects. So, your blood is a connective tissue and it connects to all the body parts. And if there won't be heart which will be pumping the blood, so then your blood would be still inside the body and there would be no transport of oxygen, no transport of carbon dioxide, and this will lead to a problem. Because there would be no transportation, all the cells in your body cannot do respiration, so eventually this situation is not possible. We don't want this situation. Blood delivers oxygen and nutrients to every cell and removes the carbon dioxide and waste products made by those cells. As I said, this when from aorta the blood comes into the body parts, there they take up oxygen and they give out carbon dioxide. That means the cells are taking up oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide, that is they are doing your cellular respiration. Blood is carried from your heart to the rest of your body through a complex network of arteries, arterioles, and capillaries. So, all arteries carry oxygenated blood, as I have said earlier. Exception is there that pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood. All veins carry deoxygenated blood, exception that is a pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood. Now, what are capillaries? So, capillaries are like the very thin kind of a blood vessel that are joined by the arteries and the veins, and there can be like exchange of gases or anything. So, in the after the aorta, when in the cells there is an exchange, so near that we have our capillaries, so that the exchange is possible. Otherwise your arteries have a very thick wall and a little thin wall has been in your vena cava, and but your capillaries are very to very thin. Only there is a simple squamous epithelium is present in that, in epithelial tissue is made up of by capillaries. So it is so very thin that there can be happening exchange of gases, so it is present in the body parts and also in the lungs. Blood is returned to your heart through venules and veins. So as I said, blood is returned, that means the deoxygenated blood, the oxygen is already used up and the blood doesn't have any oxygen at all, so it is deoxygenated blood is returned into veins, by exception pulmonary vein. If all the vessels of this network in your body were laid end to end, they would extend for about 60,000 miles, more than 96,500 kilometers. So like it's a fact that there are so many arteries, so many veins, so many capillaries that if they were laid down flat in on the surface of the earth, then they would definitely occupy near about 96,500 kilometers, and which is enough to circle the earth more than twice. So now this is a block diagram to show the double circulation. So now here oxygen gets used up in the body and here there are capillaries present. Now the blood comes deoxygenated blood, so the deoxygenated side is in blue and the oxygenated side is in red. So now from here the blood deoxygenated blood travels through vena cava to right atrium. So now vena cava is a vein. It is a major vein and aorta is a major artery. So now veins always carry deoxygenated blood. So it carried deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. Remember that right side of your heart deals with deoxygenated blood and left side of your heart deals with oxygenated blood. Now let's come to this diagram only. Now from the right atrium, the blood flows into the right ventricle. And as you can see here, it is a tricuspid wall, and I have it locating here. I am here with the pointer. There are three cusps, 1, 2 and 3. So three cusps means tricuspid. Now from the right ventricle, the blood gets pumped into the pulmonary artery. It's artery, but still it's carrying deoxygenated blood, and that's the exception. It is being located as blue color. Now it travels and travels and travels to the lungs, and in the lungs the exchange of gases takes place between the network of capillaries and the alveoli of your lungs. Now in the lungs, it comes for oxygenation, and it converts into oxygenated blood and travels back through pulmonary vein. Now it's a vein, still it carries the oxygenated blood, and that's the exception. And it travels into the left atrium, and from the left atrium it travels into the left ventricle, passing through the bicuspid or the mitral valve. As I said, here are two cusps and here are three cusps. I have drawn it. And now the blood flows into the left atrium to the left ventricle, and now it is going to pass through the aorta. Now here there is a valve present that is called aortic semilunar valve, mentioning here. And here in the right side it is pulmonary semilunar valve. You can ignore the word semilunar. It's not necessary. You can only call it aortic valve or pulmonary valve. That's enough. Semilunar is just to indicate that the shape is half moon shape. Now from the aorta, it travels into the body parts. Now oxygen gets used up and it goes back again in the same cycle only. As you have noticed that once the from the body the blood, deoxygenated blood comes, it is for first time. Then for the second time it gets oxygenated and comes into the left side. It's the second time. That's why it is called the double circulation. So this is all, and the entire thing I have explained very briefly. So thank you very much, and thank you for watching till the end. Have a great time ahead. But hey, don't leave. Wait for some time. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends, and do like to show me your encouraging cheers, because more and more things are coming up. And new uploads are on every Sunday 12 p.m. So yeah, that's all. And let's meet again the next time. This is Abhidhi signing off. Have a great day. Peace.